6:03. I will call this meeting to order. We do indeed have a quorum, a full deck of board members. Meeting purpose, we're going to have some legislative updates with guests. We're going to have an update from RTCC. Thank you for staying. I know you just came out of a meeting. And budget info meetings. We're going to be, those are reminders and things like that. Are there any, anything about the agenda we need to deal with before we dive into it? Additions, subtractions. Heather, were there any policies that we needed to add, policy decisions?
No, it turned out that all of them were recommended and none were required. Okay. So at this time, with all the things that we have going on, we are not moving any of those forward. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for updating. So we'll move to the first item on the agenda, public comment. The board welcomes comments, but is not able to take any action on them other than to direct the public to the appropriate staff member or to the complaint procedure. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Time may not be ceded to another speaker. Comments are to be addressed to me, the board chair, or the board as a whole, not to any individual on the board, on the staff, or in the public. Please raise your hand and wait to speak until you are called on. Please identify yourself with your first and last name and your town of residence. Please refrain from restating comments that have already been shared, although you are welcome to express agreement with those comments. Order and decorum shall be observed by everyone. Shouting and profanity are prohibited. As the board chair, I will maintain the order and decorum of the meeting. With that, I open public comment, and Kyle, you have the floor.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. Generally, I did see Michael's letter to the board in this meeting's agenda packet, and I thought it did a great job, basically giving a high-level executive summary of sort of how we got to where we ended up with our budget that's being proposed. I'm a little concerned, the statutorily required language has that 22% per pupil number in there. And I'm just a little nervous, with ballots potentially going out, any day. I'm just a little nervous how that will be. I'm nervous about the public perception and that 22% figure might overshadow the 6% figure. So I just maybe later on as part of the budget agenda item, if the select board or the school board, I'm sorry, maybe had some time to just talk a little bit more about public outreach and how we can really be sure that the message is getting out there that, this budget really is our best option. And the risk of not passing it is much greater than we should just do what we can to pass this budget. There's a lot of hard work that went into getting to this point, and I'm just I don't want to repeat myself too much. I'm just nervous about seeing that 22% figure in there when people get their ballots in the mail. So thank you.
Thanks very much, Kyle. Others who wish to speak? Going once, going twice. All right, we're gonna move on. Thank you all. So we do have some guests tonight, a couple online, someone in the room in person. So Larry, I'm going to put you on the spot. If you'd like to start and just introduce yourself, we'll introduce those online as well. And then if any of you kind of want to start with kind of an update that maybe you want to share off the bat, or if you want to just open it up to questions or comments, that's fine with me as well. But if you'll just introduce yourself first, please.
Yeah, sure. I'm Larry Sidewoods, and I'm one of the 2 representatives for the Orange, Washington, Addison District, and I live here in Randolph.
Thank you. Ms. Cummings?
Hi, I'm Ann Cummings. I represent Orange and Braintree in your district, and I chair the Senate Finance Committee.
Great. Oh God, I can't read. Mr. Perchlik? Did I say that right? Oh God.
No, you did. Good job.
Thank you.
I'm Andrew Perchlik. I'm one of your three state senators, as Senator Cummings said, including Orange and Braintree in Washington County and Stowe, and I'm the chair of the Appropriations Committee.
Ms. Watson, did I see you
She's here.
online? What's that?
Hello. Yes, this is Senator Ann Watson, and I am also representing the Washington district, which includes the towns of Orange and Braintree. But I have to also admit that I am managing some childcare right now, so I am going to try to be as present as I can while also making sure my little guy is not running amok. So anyway, just wanted you to be aware if I am not like as present as I should be.
Not a problem. That's something most of us can understand, and I'll be dealing with, by the way. And, my children will be able driving, so thank you very much.
For sure.
I'm not sure, did I didn't see Mr. Hart, I don't
I don't
think,
know if Larry Hart's
or
here.
Mr. Hooper.
And then Jay said he was coming in person, so he
Okay.
might just be running late.
Okay, great. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here with us tonight. Well, do you want to just start talking about, maybe, I'm looking at Larry because of course he's right here and that's easier for me. Just kind of giving a general update of what you're seeing.
Yeah, I
what you're
can
doing.
share my perspective, and I'm sure there's a lot more that can be said, and so I won't take too much time, but if it turns into more of a conversation, that's great too. Presumably you've seen the governor's proposal, is my guess, so I don't think I need to go over that with you. I can tell you that I've already been hearing from constituents who are very concerned about this proposal. I haven't heard from any constituents who are thinking that this is a good idea. So there's, maybe there are folks like that out there, but that's not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing a lot of concern, and honestly, I share those concerns. In terms of like what are alternatives to the governor's proposal, I know that there are Democrats in the House that are working really hard on this. There's lots of ideas in the air. There's lots of good thinking going into it. There are no definite proposals yet. There's no bill. It's all in process. But things are moving quickly because if we're going to have a bill, it's going to have to be before crossover, which is the time when bills in the House or Senate have to move to the, get passed out and move to the other chamber. And so that's, I forget the exact date, it's in March. It's just a few more weeks, perhaps when the senators know off the top of their heads when that is. But basically it's soon. And so there's going to be a lot of activity that's going to be happening over the next few weeks. Decisions are going to start to be made about what the bill is going to look like.
Is that your ducky?
And so it's going to be important especially for folks like you all, school boards across the state and residents, everybody who has a stake in public schools are going to want to be paying really careful attention to the news and listening to what's going on. And and especially for folks like you, probably not a bad idea to be listening in on some of the testimony that's going on in the relevant education committees, to really keep yourselves really up to date. Because like I said, things are going to happen fast. And if you want to have feedback into the process, you're going to need to know what's going on in that kind of really immediate way. Yeah.
Well, that is the big elephant in the room, right? The governor's proposal. I'm going to move online and see if anyone wants to stay on that topic, because it is the big one going on. What do I have, Senator Cummings?
Okay, the audio is very sketchy coming from there. So all I caught was the governance proposal. My committee is responsible for the education fund. The education committee is technically in charge of the governance proposal. I think I can say that everyone I've heard from, and I've heard from quite a few people, are concerned about the rationale for large districts, 5 large districts, and why the governor is doing that. We've heard it has something to do with the ratio of property values to student, and if you get it large enough, you do away with some Brigham issues. All I can say is I don't think we're going to stay with 5. I don't know where we're going. Right now, we are really in listening mode. I was told this afternoon that a bill had been submitted, but I haven't seen it. I had lunch with the chair of Ways and Means, and she didn't say anything about having seen it. It will start in the House. So we're just working our way through and we spent this afternoon listening to the second of 3 national experts on foundation formulas, which 48 other states use. And we're just, trying to understand the alternatives. And the goal is to be able to provide a better education, a good education to every child in this state, and at the same time get the cost under control. In the morning, I serve on health and welfare, and I think we recognize that if we can't get the cost of health insurance under control, it's going to be much harder to get the cost of education under control. Our healthcare system is in as much crisis as our educational system. So I've been there a long time, and I've never seen such an interesting year. Interesting in quotes.
Senator Cummings, Sam Hooper here. I heard you mention the larger districts being a way to get around Brigham laws. And I'm wondering, has there been any suggestion of cost savings that are associated with getting around those laws?
All we know is that the governor is saying he will save $180 million. We have no details as to where that will come from. They have consultants. They have a theoretical proposal, and they are writing and putting numbers and specifics to this proposal as we go through it. So the first week we got numbers. The second week, we got something on governance, but not a lot of detail as to why. This week, I'm not sure what we're getting. Well, we got a proposal on choice. But these are all proposals. We're going to listen. We're going to dissect. Then we're going to accept, reject, or alter. My betting would be we will significantly alter this proposal, but that we will in some way end up with larger districts, we will end up with a foundation formula, and that will include a base funding plus all the weighting plus all the categorical aid that you get for special ed, transportation. Some areas do categorical aid for percentage. You get an extra piece of aid if you have a larger percentage of families in poverty, along with aid for each child. A lot of proposals out there. Nothing is set in concrete. And we would appreciate any feedback.
You had mentioned, Senator Cummings, that the 48 other states already do a foundational formula.
Yes.
So we're just unique. We don't.
We are very unique in several ways. We are unique, maybe 48 other states. Wisconsin does something different, and Hawaii. But and then there are variations. Every state does the foundation formula differently. We had a presentation and there were stripes for every tax that went in it. It was called tie stripes, and there were as many different colored stripes as you can imagine, in different combinations. So we're going to be looking at them. I think we're going to be looking seriously at probably Maine, who recently did some consolidation and has a hybrid model like Vermont does now. We aren't pure property tax. We do all of the sales tax and a lottery and a bunch of other smaller proportions of taxes. The governance education committee is working on that. My committee is trying to understand it in terms of how does the money flow? Who gets the money? How does it get down to the schools? I think to make any, the other way we are unique is in our size. We have such small schools, never mind not just kids in classrooms, but kids in grades and, kids in schools that they can't put us on a national kind of computer algorithm because it doesn't work for us. We're off the chart small. We are also off the chart in the number of adults to students in our schools. Nobody is as high as we are, and that is kind of part and parcel of our very small size. So we are unique. We are also expensive, and those are the things we're trying to balance.
Senator Perchlik, do you want to jump in?
Sure. I mean, in my committees, which are transportation and appropriations, we're kind of waiting for the tax committees, Ann's committee and the education committee on the policy to work through these things, and we'll have to appropriate the money. The thing that we're looking at right now is how much money do we put forward for next year's tax rates, because whatever changes we make are not going to have an impact for next year.
Right.
So we have a year or 2 or 3 of transition. So the governor and seems like the Senate and House Democrats are agreeing in some part with the governor about buying down the rates. We had excess receipts in fiscal year 24 that ended last July. So we're carrying those forward. We're not spending that money. The governor wants to put $77 million plus get rid of universal meals. So I'd be interested to know what your school board thinks about universal meals and the value of that. So he wants to put $77 million towards buying down the tax rate plus get rid of universal meals. We're not probably going to support his proposal to get rid of universal meals. At least I don't want to. But we might have to do more than 77 million if we're going to buy the rate down all the way to 0, which he proposed. And so that's what we're working with right now. So the main thing that I'd like to hear is any comments about how universal meals has worked in your school district.
Well, for a good, I feel comfortable saying this, a good majority of the district, it's the most quality meals that a lot of our students get is at school. So I think that kind of says it all.
And making it universal is such an important piece for making sure that kids aren't stigmatized for getting free lunch or reduced lunch, which we know from research that kids that when it's not universal, that the kids that do qualify won't even eat the meals sometimes because they're embarrassed that other kids will know that their family is low income enough to qualify. So the universal meals create a situation where all of our kids get to eat together, and they get that experience, that community experience of having meals where nobody's being singled out for eating a different meal than other kids.
When did we adopt that? It must be pretty recent. I remember
2019, I think.
Okay.
I mean, I can speak to it. So, Emil Parmalee, I'm from Randolph, but I work, my day job is working on the Blueprint grant, so I'm a QI facilitator for the Blueprint. And when you talk about healthcare costs, children who are chronically hungry are higher utilizers of both our mental health care system and our medical health care system. It is an incredibly inexpensive program when you look at what the cost of hungry children is from a medical standpoint. So, I mean, stigma is important, access is important, but also if we're talking about healthcare reduction, it's a very inexpensive place to start. Well, and I can speak for this area because I have been in this data recently, that it's a fair number of families in our community that, so there's this standardized tool that Medicare puts out that's a screening around your social determinants of health. So how your social situation impacts your healthcare access. And there's 2 questions on there around hunger. And there's a pretty significant number of children in our district whose families fear running out of food every month or do run out of food every month and don't have money to purchase more until they have, SNAP benefits at the start of the month. So then for the last week or so of the month, the only place children are accessing food is at school. It is really hard to hear, but I think we're talking about a program that's really not expensive in the grand scheme of the other things that we're talking about.
Yeah, that's what we keep saying. The governor says it's an $18 million program, but got reminded today that there's 77 schools that had universal meals before we made it universal. So those schools would probably continue it. Other schools might continue to do it. So it probably will still be part of the education funding. So we're going to pay for it anyway. And we're getting better every year at drawing down federal funds. And then there's all the other costs that you just spoke about, how it's a good investment in our children and in our communities. So I think we'll win that battle, hopefully, but that's one of the things we're disagreeing with on the governor.
Jay, do you want to start by introducing yourself and then
Howdy.
wherever else you want to go?
Jay Hooper, Brookfield, Braintree, Randolph, Granville, and Roxbury. 5th term, did 2 terms on House Education. This term, I'm again on government operations and military affairs, but I have spent most of my time in House Education,
watching this conversation develop. And I spent my afternoon with Madam Chair Cummings watching their committee of 5 today, usually 6, discussing the finance side of these conversations. The thing about this discussion, well, I should ask you, Ann, would you like the good news or the bad news?
Let's go with the bad news first.
I knew you were going to do that to me. You picked the wrong thing. There is no bad news, not yet. And the reason is because there's a culture shift in Montpelier. And Democrats and Republicans are sitting at the same table having discussions that are very difficult. It was always going to have to be inch by inch. And we were always going to have to build for them a proposal for us. Democrats have ants in their pants about where we draw red lines, right? We don't need to think about it like that right now. There are a lot of lawmakers with considerable apprehension about how quickly this conversation is developing. On a daily basis, I try to remind them that this was probably going to be a 5-year discussion at a minimum. And we all have to participate in figuring out what it is when we consider the future of public education in Vermont as we protect it. There is only one future, and we're going to see the senators refine the policies that the House creates, because it's a little known fact that all money bills come from the House. They have to originate on our side of the discussion. So the reason I've been spending my time in other committees, Senate Education, Senate Finance, I haven't spent much time in House Ways and Means, but House Education is where the policy discussion will develop. And I just want to continue to encourage my colleagues to stay at the table, because these discussions are going to get really hard. They're going to be rough, and it's going to be based on geography. Today, we heard from, well, we hear from the Secretary, Zoe Saunders, and Jill Briggs Campbell every day, the Agency of Education, right? They come in and they give us a couple more bricks to lay, or not. The proposal is skeletal, is probably 12% developed. But the thing to remember is that we're going to see 40 iterations of whatever it is that we end up making a decision on. And that's not going to be this year. This year, our job is to continue to stage the conversation so that we can, by next session, figure out an obvious direction or a set of options as to direction, as this conversation moves, like I say, inch by inch, row by row, forward. I had Senator Perchlik on my radio program this past Saturday. He said something notable when I said, I think we will for sure have to, for maybe the 7th year in a row, put what we say on the credit card, the property tax increases. He said, we're not talking actually about a credit card. It's more like a debit card. We're going to probably have to use reserves that we wish we wouldn't have to use. But I think if I have you correct, Senator, you said we should be in a place ahead of that decision this year where we know what we're planning on investing in next year and through the summer and the following sessions. The chair of House Education today said something notable a couple times. He's basically framing the discussion in his room about this constant tension, right, between the current state and the future state of public education. We have to know what it is that we're going to do in what order to feel confident that we're not prescribing for future legislatures things that they might want to ditch. And we also want to make sure that we're being prudent about how we spend money that is both one-time and fleeting. So I've been trying to kind of cheerlead, just hang in there. There's so much stress in Montpelier, and the apprehension is at an all-time high. So I keep telling the people directly involved in this conversation, you're doing a good job. and you should keep doing a good job. The worst thing we could do is let this boil into a partisan conversation where Democrats and Republicans turn away from each other. Politics and rhetoric have always dominated this conversation, since between the world wars, really. And now we're at a place in time where we understand that these systems are under such incredible growing, compounding pressure that they're gonna not survive unless we save them. And the only way we can do that is to get all of your opinions as we go. Superintendents, principals, teachers, parents. Everybody's gonna need to be willing to give an inch because it's gonna change, like, pretty dramatically. Nobody's gonna be super happy. I don't think you'll be hard pressed to find somebody giving it a 2 thumbs up. One though, hopefully we can each give it 1. So, hang in there, buckle up, is basically what I'm saying. This is gonna be a really difficult challenge that we're all up for. You know, people say, actually Andy, when I came to his committee to ask him to be on my show, I was talking about the 2 sides, and he goes, "Wait, what side are you on?" And it was a funny joke, but I said, you know, our side, we're all on the same side, and we need to make sure that children and their interests are at top of mind every day. We make decisions on their behalf. Moneyed interests need to be there for that. And good luck to you. You do the hard work. I hope you'll wish us luck. 5 districts is probably not what we land on. There's discussion of more like 12, maybe 14 perhaps. Who knows? Let's look at all of it. It's all on the table. Any questions?
Senator Watson, right? Yes. Senator, I have that wrong. Senator Watson, I didn't mean to skip over you when I was, looking at online folks, but I also know split attention quite well.
No worries at all. I can chime in here a little bit. I think a lot of, I think a lot of stuff has been said that I agree with, and I guess I would add, because I chair the Senate Natural Resources and Energy Committee. This is not likely to go through that committee, but I do sit on the Appropriations Committee, so I'll be interested to see that aspect of it. And I agree with Senator Perchlik that I'm very interested in using some of our excess money revenues to buy down the property tax rates for this coming year as a potential bridge into wherever we are going. I also agree that I think 5 districts is too many. I'm sorry, not too many, too few, and it's also I am for some level of consolidation. I think that, but mainly for the sake of kids. I think there is such a thing as class sizes that are too small. Just for a little bit more background, I am a high school science and math teacher in the Montpelier-Roxbury School District. And so, whatever we end up doing is going to directly affect my life as well. So while I do think, for some, there is some reason to do some consolidation, I'm very wary of having the state just make those decisions unilaterally. I'm also not fully convinced that closing schools will save us money, which ultimately I think is the point of that that move. I think it may, but I would like to see the numbers to have some assurance that if we're closing schools, that it would bring down costs. And I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm skeptical about that. I would like to go by the data, and I'm not sure where we're at with it, whether or not that data even exists yet. And then I do want to speak to one other piece that I don't think has come up in the governor's proposal. There was the issue about the districts and about the funding mechanism. But just to flag another piece, one of the things that was in their initial presentation was about one statewide curriculum, and especially as a teacher myself, that is very concerning to me. I would not at all be in favor of one statewide curriculum. I think that hampers the ingenuity of teachers and the good work that they can do now. I'm certainly for, I use curriculum that's modeled after some, best practices in science and math, but I would hate for someone to tell me that, well, that one, you can't use that or you can't modify it. So that's something I'm going to be vigilant about as well through this process. And then I guess I would also say, while I'm open to a foundation formula, provided that it doesn't violate the Brigham decision, I am also very interested in the Public Assets Institute's income-based model. And anytime you change a system like that, there are winners and losers, and with the shift, and so I think it'll be important to know who those winners and losers are. So all that is to say that I'm looking forward to learning more, and I'm sort of holding back on most of my judgment at this point, except for perhaps the statewide curriculum. But I'll be interested to see either what the governor ultimately comes forward with in bill form, or see if there are some good alternatives that come forward along the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
My understanding is there will be a short form bill coming from the administration tomorrow, and we'll see what it turns into.
What does that mean, a short form?
Short form is when you basically only draft the purpose of the bill as opposed to the contents of the policy. So it's when you can take it any direction. It's a symbolic conversation starter that is supposed to suggest direction, but doesn't have too much of that.
Because I've read parts. I'm still trying to digest everything.
Mm-hmm.
Have they indicated, or did Phil Scott say, I want this implemented by 2027? Did he give a time frame? I didn't see.
Correct me if I'm wrong,
anything.
Representative or senators. My understanding is it was 4 years, but we're realizing that that's kind of short in terms of the policy. There's so much still to fill in for gaps, and that's the work that we have to do, between now and town meeting day, hopefully, so we can show up with updates on the burning questions about, consolidation and all things scary.
And if I may jump in.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ideas out there, and some are going to be relatively easy time-wise to implement, and we could see them being proposed to happen pretty quickly. Others, like creating much bigger districts, would presumably take much longer. Consolidation of any kind, we saw what happened when we had consolidation a number of years ago. It took years to play out, and if we're talking about things on that scale, it's going to take a long time. So I think the time scale is going to be highly dependent upon the particular thing, and we don't have to do everything all at once. And a lot of things, while they can help in terms of educational outcomes, other things might help in terms of saving money. There might be different pieces within them which can work together, but are also independent. So they don't necessarily have to be figured out, in a highly meshed way.
It's what seems like a particularly big struggle, though, is the fine line between not wanting to rush into anything and us being here in the very precarious position of perhaps not passing a budget. You know, not having funding even for next year. So that seems particularly tricky.
Yeah, and I think there really are two conversations, right, that are going on. One is, how are we going to actually change schools, you know, in terms of getting better outcomes and also, you know, trying to do it at lower costs for, you know, for the foreseeable future. But also, what are we doing like right now to make sure property taxes, you know, don't go up? And I think that's what Senator Perchlik was really referring to, was what are we going to be doing now to affect, you know, this coming year's property tax level. And there does seem to be broad agreement that average, you know, taxes statewide need to have no increase, if not attempt to make them go down. But one thing which has been pointed out to me, which I think is really interesting, is that when we're talking about statewide taxes for properties, it's always an average spread out amongst the whole state. And so what that will then mean in effect is that half of districts are going to see some sort of increase, half of districts will see some sort of decrease. It might not be obvious right away which side of that line we're on here in our district.
Mm-hmm. So every single meeting, no matter what I do or anyone else does, we're always in a time crunch. But I think, Rachel, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, one question. I didn't hear anybody talk about one piece of the proposal talked about, so there would be consolidated school boards, but then there was something about, like, there would be, like, I don't remember what they were called, but they were like community education. I'm using language from somewhere else. Councils?
Councils,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So that is what they call it
Advisory
when I used to live in New York. So we had the same thing there. And those community education councils, there's no democratic process there. These are places where people can go and they can talk and nothing moves forward anywhere. And I am worried about the loss of local democratic processes that can happen in a move to large districts with some space for people to feel like they're getting to say something, but it's not actually part of the process.
Yeah, I think that's really one of the big concerns, and I think your concern's widely shared. And like some others have noted, this idea that we might go to, you know, just 5 districts statewide seems unlikely, honestly, at the moment. From the way I understand it is that there's data that shows that as you make bigger districts, you do save money, but only up to a point. And if you get bigger than that, you don't see increased savings. You just start seeing problems like you described. And so, you know, for Vermont, we're going to have to decide, I think, where that line ought to be. And there's definitely some data and science around it, but every place is different, and so there's going to be a certain amount of judgment around how we draw that line as well. And I would have more to say, but I also want to respect your time, because I do know what it's like to be in a meeting that goes on way too long.
Is that the select board? No.
Never happens at select board.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a fruitful conversation, and we, you know, once a year we get this opportunity, but I also know we have other guests, someone else here to make a presentation, so I don't want to affect everybody here, but I will say that, you know, we all have homework to do and we all have presence to have in the conversation, and that's something I heard from everyone here, that our input is desired and valued. So as board members, I think we really need to take that on and do what we were elected to do, which is represent our community. Yeah, even at the legislative level. So thank you all so very much for being here, for taking the time, for being so transparent and having this conversation with us.
Well, I can speak for myself. I'll be happy to come to every school board meeting you have. My brother's, you know, if he's handcuffed to this radiator, I better come. And if you can convince Kelly Green to give us a few minutes on town meeting day, we'd be happy to I mean, I don't know where you'll be, but I'll be happy to address the auditorium at Chandler. There's a lot to update, and it's going to be a constant thing for a long time. So hang in there.
You too.
Appreciate you too.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Senator.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. We will be back.
Thank you. As will we.
Okay.
Gosh, it's moments like these when my head is so full and I'm thinking all these thoughts and I can't speak. Okay. Nika, hi. We're at the moment. Thank you both so much for being here.
Of course, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, so it's always so weird, we put on the agendas presentation, but I never wanted to feel really formal. So if you have a presentation to give, that's great. If you just want to have a conversation, that's cool too.
Well, thank you. First, I want to know, can I share my screen? Oh wait, here we go. I think I'm doing it. All right, let's see. So I'm Nika Oaks. I'm the director of RTCC.
I'm Clayton Squires, Assistant Director of RTCC.
And it says I'm presenting, but I don't think I am. Anyone help me? It says stop presenting. But it would be up there, right?
Maybe
It would be.
maybe
Are you
the owl.
on, are you on this meeting's link or in the last meeting's link?
This meeting's link. Yes, this meeting's
Maybe
link.
the owl's taking control.
What do you think?
I think it's the owl.
Oh, is it this?
No.
Just kidding.
No.
I got really excited
Can you
about
stop presenting for just one quick second?
Yes, absolutely.
And then click on what you want. No one else is in this meeting. It's like. They're all in the folder.
Yeah, right. So
All right, fine.
I don't think.
Maybe like agendas, maybe share them and not.
Yeah, we're thinking about it. Can't do any of that.
So this is my advice, that I go in this bed. And I actually get paid to help us organize stuff, so don't ask me.
Okay, I don't keep the paper.
You're not helping unless
Oh,
you
yeah,
get paid.
because I have to-
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
I feel like I'm like.
One spot in the house where my.
that, I recycle the paper.
Okay.
And then George says.
Oops, I've already signed all these.
Oh, good, it worked.
Oh, yay.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Go to the slideshow.
Yep. Fine. Wait. Okay. How do why won't it?
Just watch some of them.
Goodness
Can you
gracious.
go to the?
So,
go
have
to
to
the-
Be careful,
Just
I'm
check,
not confused.
because I
My
signed one
signature
right
is
for you.
full.
and then
Oh,
click on
oh, oh, do they look there?
I mean, the Rachel parts.
I'm sorry.
No.
I don't do this a lot, clearly.
Okay, so just go through here.
Okay.
Don't worry about the meat.
Don't worry about that. Okay, thank you. Okay, takes a village. All right, so, yes, thank you for having us. So we are going to co-present. What is this?
No, it's fine.
Oh, okay, I'm like, what did I press? Oh my
You're
goodness.
Justin.
Okay, so we're going to share with you our slightly modified recruitment slideshow that we share with students. We did have some videos in there, but the video links were not able to be necessarily shared outside of the school link-wise, so we had to take those out. But we wanted to share with you what we share with students when we recruit. So let's see. Maybe. How come that won't move? Just click it. Okay. So, as we know, so RTCC is one of very few full-day career and technical education programs, and we've taken really, I think this was your idea, career in a year, as a really cool slogan, and it's it's an amazing opportunity for a student to get the industry recognized credentials that they need to become an industry professional, entry level, but marketable professional in any of the programs that we offer. And so just 1 year to receive industry certifications. And one of the really cool things is that if you came to RTCC as a junior, you could do one program. Like as an example, you could do an electrical program, and then as a senior, you could do construction, and then you have electrical and construction. Or you could do two totally different things. We just had a student who had been in film for the last year, moved to diversified agriculture. And so you could do different things, you could do similar things and have them layer, or you could do 2 years in the same program. In the first year, you get all your credentials, and the second year, you do a co-op and start building your resume, making connections. So, yeah, so those are kind of the things that we tell our students or our potential students. And I like this picture because we were really fortunate to be able to buy some equipment. We bought a fleet of bicycles, kayaks, and snowshoes, and our students are having the opportunity to go out at least once a week and do some sort of physical activity or hike, or kids have been out fishing in warmer weather in the kayaks, and it's really nice when you're out there in a circle with your instructor and you're like building, you know, a little family.
So where do you go?
Within each program.
Do you go to Salt Lake over
Yes.
Burn?
Yeah. Yes, that's where they have gone. So, yeah. Right. So our programs that we are going to be offering next year, so we have a new culinary arts teacher. She's fabulous, criminal justice, digital media, diversified agriculture, and exciting possibility with health careers is that we're hoping to collaborate with Gifford to have a program where they teach our students the LNA material, and then they get their LNA hours there, and then once they finish the program, they can then do their co-op right there at Gifford or at Menig. And as in addition to that awesome connection, that's what we're hoping for. So that's like in the works. That's not solid quite yet, but hopefully soon. Another thing that we're excited about is all of the many opportunities at Gifford for our students to work. So anywhere from maintenance, landscaping, culinary arts, like food services, nutrition, nursing, you name it. Could be marketing, could be digital media, making advertisements, doing marketing, anything like that. So there's lots of areas where our students could get really valuable work experience, and so we're really excited about our renewed connection. It's new for us because we were not connected with Gifford last year, and we were new last year. So it's new for us, but it's not new for Gifford.
Can I speak to one more thing?
Please do.
So there's one more interesting part of this whole pipeline. So when students go to work for Gifford, they have great opportunities with VSAC and Vermont State, where they have a partnership. So they'll actually pay for the students to get certified and become an electrician. So they can take courses over there, and it's fully paid for. All their tuition is paid for, including the nursing, specialized respiratory therapists, radiography. So that's a very unique opportunity for students, and not many people know of that. And I think the more people that do know that, I think there's a lot of apprehension among students where they don't necessarily want to go to college because they think they're going to have to take on the burden of tuition. But in reality, there's great opportunities around us that can help them afford college and really reach their career peak.
So, I'm sorry to interrupt the presentation, but just a quick logistical question. So, employees of Gifford would be the instructors?
Or a employee.
Or a employee, right.
Yes. In theory, so this is not solidified yet.
Yes.
We're working on it.
Theoretically.
Theoretically, there you go.
How would that work? Who's paying them?
So we would be paying them.
So they would be an
paying the
employee.
tuition. Depending on how many students, so it could be anywhere between 1,500 and 2,000 per student. And we would pay for that, for them to get their licensure. and that pays for the instructor. So in lieu of paying for a health careers teacher, it would be that we pay a tuition for them to learn that skill.
Gotcha. Cool. Okay. Thank you. Like a
No
stipend
problem.
to the, like a stipend to the
Yeah, it's,
employee of Gifford.
right.
So they would not be our employee. It would
No.
just be.
Right, correct. Yes,
Cool. Okay.
that's the idea.
Thank you.
What we're working on. Sorry. Okay. And more programs that we offer: construction trades management, electrical technology, automotive technology, diesel technology, manufacturing and fabrication, and pre-tech.
It's pre-tech.
Yeah, what's
Oh,
pre-tech?
Pre-tech, okay, so that's only for sophomores, and it is it's like CTE light. So you get your math, your ELA, your social studies, your science, your PE, all wrapped up in one neat little package, and then you check out each program for a certain amount of time to see which of the programs you might be interested in. So you're just gonna spend like 2 weeks in culinary arts and 2 weeks in electrical, and you try everything. And so, and then when you're not in there, you're doing projects with your teacher to get you ready for whatever career you end up choosing. So it's really cool. They do some really neat stuff with 3D printing, and a lot of biology, a lot of math and ELA, and like really hands-on activities. So it's pretty cool.
Do we bring students in from other schools for the pre-tech program also?
Yes, yes. Okay, so culinary arts, do you want to talk a little bit about the IRCs?
Sure, I'll speak a little bit to the IRCs. One of the things that they work on in there is the ServSafe Manager. It's a little bit more difficult than just a regular ServSafe that you would often see someone get. So that's one thing that they do. They also are doing ProStart Level 1. And so ProStart is like a national organization where there's a curriculum and they have to meet each requirement, and it goes through different units. There's also a ProStart 2, and so that would be for like students who want to come back the next year and want to kind of add on some credentials, and they get more in-depth experience in terms of cooking and the disciplinary, in terms of the technique. It goes a little bit deeper.
Thank you. All right, criminal justice. And they've had such a cool class. They're working on their Part 107 drone operator IRC, which is so cool. They're getting ready to take their test in another month or so.
Yeah, so they'll be taking it. I'm not sure exactly of the airport that they signed on to, but there's different airports. They administer it through the FAA, and they can then fly drones within certain areas, and they're licensed. And so that could be anything from real estate. It can be used multiple different ways. Agriculturally, you can take it a lot of different ways, but in terms of how law enforcement is using it, the future of law enforcement involves drones, thermal imaging. You no longer have to call a helicopter to look for somebody who might be in the woods, or somebody search and rescue. So it has a lot of different applications. It's very interesting.
Digital media. We have this wonderful teacher who is teaching 2 different CCV classes, and he's a teacher that's embedded right into, he's teaching the classes as the teacher, both for CCV and for RTCC.
Yeah, so the students essentially are getting dual credit opportunity. They'll be getting college credit, and they'll getting 6 college credits. It'll be Adobe Creative Cloud, and then Filmmaking 1. Adobe Creative Cloud, a lot of the emphasis is on that Adobe Premiere, so it's more like filmmaking, but they also get some work. And the other cloud,
Intro to business.
Sorry?
Intro to business.
That is one of them that they do offer. We're not doing that one right now, but we're doing the Adobe Creative Cloud and the Filmmaking 1. That's the one that they had chosen.
Does anyone recognize where the picture that's closest to the writing? Does anyone?
Are they on the bridge?
Yes. Isn't that cool? They would, yeah. they went to the Star Trek set, and like I don't know if it was like completely lost on the kids. I was like, oh my god, Star Trek.
Where
Yeah.
was this? I think it's in New York.
New York,
Oh,
yeah.
New York, okay.
Ticonderoga?
Funny.
I think so, yes.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. They had a lot of different pictures. That was one of the, that there were a lot of goofy pictures. It's like they had fun on that trip.
Funny.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. Diversified agriculture. Like this picture because the whole building smelled like Christmas. Like it was so amazing. But yeah, I was talking about those IRCs.
Game of logging, it's basically kind of like an arborist certification. It's a 2-week program where they go out and they work with local loggers to kind of understand the proper cuts and how to make precise cuts to make sure that the tree fell is going in one direction. They're also getting the BASF plant science certification, which is a more science-related certificate through ICEV. That's something that they're offering kind of around the United States as a plant science certification. And it goes into pesticide application. It's very cool. Also, we hope to work with the country club here so that they have some access to working with the turf and the maintenance and doing that. So we're trying to get them tied in there as well. I know it's cold, so they can't really do much, but we're hoping to get our mechanics, our diesel, our automotive down there to kind of work on golf carts, kind of help out and kind of facilitate that piece, but also just the maintenance of the turf.
Mm-hmm. We have construction trades and management, working on OSHA 10 for all of the mechanical core right now, and NCCER core.
Yeah, so NCCER, some people may be familiar with it, maybe not, but it's a program where it kind of like guides you through all the different types of siding and sheathing and insulation. There's a lot to it. Core, NCCER core is something that they utilize both in electrical and is also in construction, and then there's a specific construction component. And then those are some of the different places that our students are on co-op.
Which again goes back to the idea is if you did 2 years and you did one in electrical and one in construction, you have that NCCER core in common in the 2 programs, and then so you have this like prior knowledge going into the second one. It's pretty cool. All right, and electrical technology. So, right, you have the Vermont State Year 1 apprenticeship program is totally covered if you've completed 1 year in the electrical program. So that's very exciting.
So it's basically 4 years to get a journeyman. So going to our program for 1 year gets you some hands-on experience with a journeyman licensed professional, and he walks you through step by step. It's mostly residential that we're getting these students ready for, but we have a lot of students that work in the commercial space.
And solar.
Solar, Catamount Solar is one of our close partners in the area. And so it's just awesome just to have that 1 year experience under your belt, and then they can then start to go work out in the community, and then they can build from there.
And I should have said too, when we were on construction, and also electrical does sometimes work with Habitat for Humanity, who's building the house that's right close to the central office. So they're over there several times a week. One of our students has a job there. It's really pretty cool. But it helps to know all of that information going into it. Automotive technology, so you've got your ASE entry-level certifications. Which ones are they, do you know which ones they decided to focus on?
They're working on engine management, so it's kind of like diagnostics, hooking up the computers to the ECU. They're working on brakes, they're working on power plants. Those are the ones for sure that they're mainly focusing on, and then there's also some electrical components. We want to kind of focus on the core things that they would be doing in like an entry-level position if they were to go to Subaru, or if they were to go to some of the local automotive shops. And then there's also some great opportunities in the community, and we're looking to try to get our students in those spots. But we want to make sure that we have a quality student that knows what they're doing. We don't want to like waste any of our businesses and our stakeholders' time, for sure.
Absolutely. And the Vermont State Inspection IRC as well. Thank you. Okay, diesel technology. So we've got a lot going on there. There's tons of projects going on, and the diesel program is also, or really the instructor is also maintaining our new snowshoe trail. So I don't know if you guys know about that, but there's a snowshoe trail in the back field, and it goes around, and we've got a ton of snowshoes that the kids can use, but also anyone who wants to can use the trail. And so, yeah, so they're getting their ASE medium and heavy duty truck certification and the OEM specific certifications.
So there's some different OEM specific, Freightliner, for instance, is one of the OEM specific certifications that they get. And we have, and I would say our advisory board for that particular program is pretty broad. You know, whether it's Caterpillar, we have some outfits in Lebanon, we have Lucky's Trailer, there's a lot of different, United Ag and Turf, we're working with. So there's some great stakeholders in the community that we're doing. We're also one of 2 diesel technology programs in the state. And so that's pretty unique, and that's a unique opportunity that I feel like we need to leverage a little bit more. The other one, I believe, is in Middleburg. And so that's something that we really want to focus on building out.
I just can't help but smiling. We have one of the most sweetest, most amazing teachers in that program that just makes, I think, that whole program just feel so welcoming and warm. In a very cold building, but a warm heart. So it's a really nice place to be.
Is there still a diesel tech program at VTC, and if so, is there any coordination between our program and that program?
So yes, they still have it. Is there a huge coordination? I heard that the communication is kind of like broken between us. Not that we don't want to reach out, but I think there's been some challenges in trying to get that open dialogue and that reciprocal, kind of from their side, from what my understanding, but it's hard for me to say.
Yeah, I think that's I think that campus is struggling with that since the merger, so I don't think you're unique in that. I just was curious.
Right, they also, you know, the agricultural piece took a big hit over there, so that was kind of a challenge, but, you know, in terms of moving forward, some unique opportunities that I feel like we can really take advantage of is they have the new meat packing facility down there. Our culinaries, very interested in, you know, meeting with them, but also meeting with the Royal Butcher and getting that link. That's another great opportunity. Also the advanced manufacturing. Our teachers working on trying to establish that with their new advanced manufacturing facility down there. It's amazing what they have, and it's very underutilized, but we need to like really put a spotlight on that. I feel like that's a hidden gem for this community.
And that's a connection we're really excited about. That's another new, Gifford, well, new to us. We understand Gifford's been involved for a long time, but new to us, and the manufacturing program at VTC or VTSU. Yeah, very exciting. And manufacturing and fabrication. So these, the second picture with these little orange pieces here, these guys 3D printed these awesome floodlights, like flashlights, that they sold at the winter market. So I really like that picture. They did really well with that. And then you'll see the other classrooms. So here are our regular part of our classroom, and then our workshop area. But right now they're working on CAD software, so they're doing SolidWorks. And working on TIG welding.
Yeah, they're working on TIG welding, so they're getting the certification through AWS, and then we work with, can't think of the community college right now in northern New Hampshire. Can't think of it. White Mountain.
Yeah.
They're the ones who certify the weld. It's interesting to know that Vermont does not have any center that certifies AWS welds. Not one. The only close one is in New Hampshire. And then they only have one center in all of New Hampshire that does AWS, American Welding Certificates. And so most of them are located in New York, Baltimore, Maryland, and bigger cities, we don't have a lot of that. And so I know there's a lot of interest from our students. They want to weld, but a lot of these programs around us, they're not necessarily offering that certification.
Which is another thing that makes us unique, and that we are doing it through them.
Yeah.
Okay. Pre-tech, which we did just talk about, but yeah, so they're experiencing a little of each program and doing like unique projects. They also do just a lot of, they do like little community service projects within the building, and they're sort of like the positive people that walk around and do like fun things and make people feel good and loved, and it's a really sweet program, and it was very popular this year. Very, very large program. One of the things that we always tell kids is that we also have, like, if they're worried about leaving their high school and not having those traditional experiences like prom and yearbook and other things, you know, we didn't do it this year. We had last year a bonfire event. We're planning prom. Our theme this year is Old Western prom. So we're gonna break out our cowboy boots and hats. We have yearbook, the yearbook advisor. We enjoy that so much. We do our winter market every year, and the kids make all of their fun items that they sell. They raise money for various things that they want to do. Within their program, we have yoga, we do trick-or-treating where the RES elementary kids come in and like walk through in their cute little outfits. And so we do a lot of just fun events, and then we have like special days where we do like appreciations, like Friday trivia and student of the week. And so we have a lot of those kind of just really positive, like more traditional things that high schools do, so that we don't want them to feel like they're giving up something or missing out, because we are our own little high school, and we want them to know how much we appreciate them for being there. So we have a lot of fun with that. I'm gonna skip over this because I don't want to keep you guys for too long. We did talk about the IRCs, and Clayton went through each one, but those IRCs make our students a lot more marketable, and so that's the thing that we do talk about a lot. And then co-ops. So we have work-based learning. Work-based learning is like an umbrella term that talks about doing a job shadow, or encompasses job shadows, co-ops, paid or unpaid internships. And our students, as you'll see here, can make, many of our co-ops offer $19 an hour. So they're getting their academic credit while they're doing their job, and they're getting paid, and they're building their resume and making connections. You do need to be recommended by your teacher and be in good standing. You know, we want you to be passing your classes and be, you know, representing RTCC in a positive way. But that's a great carrot for students to really try their best and put their most professional foot forward, keep good attendance, and not have a discipline record that, you know, just it helps them learn to be adults. And so that's one thing that really sets us apart. And we always tell students where these are the characteristics of an RTCC student. So someone who is on time, but we do start at 9 a.m. So, you know, you're on time for school, you have great attendance, you're willing to learn, you're engaged, you're innovative, and you're creative, and you're friendly and welcoming. You're a team player, and you have great behavior. And I have to say that our students, you know, there's this growing process, and they mature throughout the year, but we have some of the most honest students I've ever worked with, I've ever had in almost 20 years at RTCC. Just some of the most honest, hardworking kids, and it's really fun to see them grow in their maturity and get ready to go out into the workforce. And yeah, so we have fun, we work hard, we motivate ourselves. Every program is an individual team. But at RTCC, we are a family. We are small. We know all of our students. We love our students. Our instructors coach them to be the best in their fields. We have academics. We prepare for a career. We prepare for college and for entering the workforce. And then we've been using QR code this year, which has been pretty cool. And also we have like our application link that students can use to apply. And lastly, so we are absolutely looking to increase enrollment. And one of the really exciting things that has happened in the past month or so is a discussion about CVCC having about 200 students that are overflow students. They just can't, they want to accept them, but they can't fit them into their programs because they're oversubscribed. So I overheard this at a meeting and I was like, whoa, we could see if those kids want to come here. So Michael, myself, the director of CVCC, and the AOE got together, had a meeting and talked about how could we get a bus at CVCC for our students that are not able to get into the program that they want, but we have it. So let's bring them on down. So that's a conversation that we've been having. It looks like that's going to happen. It's very exciting, and I think it's really going to help our enrollment and help those kids access CTE programs that otherwise they wouldn't be able to access. Another thing that we did, they're floating around somewhere, but we did update our, Clayton has some, our program of studies. I think it looks amazing. I'm really excited about it. And so we, pass that thing around. We also have been updating weekly our Facebook page for having like a bigger Facebook presence. We just started up an RTCC Instagram account where we want to work on like getting our marketing, our image out there. Little things like getting bumper stickers out there, just getting like just our name and just having it be something that students are super aware of us. I don't ever want to hear from a student that they didn't know we existed. And so some of the things on that note to minimize that from happening, we sent out these really beautiful postcard mailers to all the students in high school ages in grades 9 through 12 in our sending district. They just went out last Wednesday, or this past Wednesday, to every home with information on how to apply to RTCC. We had a photographer come in and take pictures of our students, just living their best life at RTCC. We're making these great posters. They're gonna be like large size like that. We're gonna frame them and then we're going to either send them or deliver them to our sending school counseling offices so that the students, when they're sitting with their school counselor, they have a visual of RTCC and just kind of start getting that, like the logo and the pictures and the idea of what programs we have in their head so that they can't say like, oh, I never heard of that. Like, no, it's right there. Oh, that's that place. I want to go check that place out. We didn't have business cards, so we're having business cards made. We're looking into newspaper advertising for this year. We did it last year. We're looking into it for this year. We did radio advertising last year. We're looking into radio advertising again just to help boost the push for the applications to get people, because we want them to come and visit, because we believe that once you come and visit, you're gonna love us. Just come on in and check us out. So that's what we're doing. We're really excited about it. We have a lot of ideas. We did talk with the RAB. We got some other new ideas tonight that we are going to work on. We have a committee of people that are working on advertising, and so so that's what we're doing. And did I miss anything?
No, one thing that I would love to emphasize is that, it's great that we can do, the Instagram and all that stuff, but what really matters is that we're connected and interwoven within our communities, right, in our sending schools. And so I want to ensure that our programs are out there, that they're visible, that there's an established tie. For instance, if it's culinary, I was just talking to our instructor today and speaking about Meals on Wheels, how we could go in and really help deliver some meals that we could, accommodate them by maybe they can come over and use our kitchen. We can have joint effort between our tech center and our community. We have so many great resources in our tech center, and I think it's an amazing opportunity for other people to kind of partner and then really build that true community. We have a unique experience.
I wonder so I think I've done myself and my ability to advocate for RTCC a disservice by not coming and visiting. And so I wonder what an appropriate way for board members to go in and, I mean, I hear about the trick-or-treating. This is very, very popular in my house. It's a big deal.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Aw,
My
we
middle
love it
schooler
too.
is very jealous now this year because she's in
cute is
7th grade
that?
of the elementary school. Yeah. But I wonder the best way for me and anyone else. I mean, a group of adults like, oh, this woman's
Well-
moving around in a group. That's awkward.
You should go do a presentation in culinary.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. That's, yes.
Yeah.
That would be,
Wait, are you connected to culinary?
I own a restaurant in town.
Oh, I didn't even know
that is
Yeah.
the best way that you could come and connect to the school,
Okay.
is to teach, come on in, meet the students and the teacher and teach a lesson as a guest chef.
Yeah,
That
we
would be
recently had someone
wonderful.
come in, it's a school in Roxbury. One of their agriculture school resource, they work a lot with elementary schools in the area. She came in, they did a little mini lesson. It was just a great introduction. So we're gonna start working at the elementary level, kind of going to some of our sending schools with our culinary students, and, you know, working in tandem with the agriculture, get that whole food to table type thing, growing culinary herbs. We want to hear from the community, you know, we want to go out into the restaurant space and then see how we can utilize our students to really benefit the community. That's what it's all about.
Right.
And you know, we emphasize a lot about, you know, making this money, but at the same time, I think it's really important that our students get the opportunity to shadow and see different, you know, professionals and different managers, and see who they like, you know, see who really works best with them. And then that, I feel, could then be a solidified co-op opportunity where you say, hey, I love this guy, I love this gal, we want to work with them, you know, and there's a mutual respect and trust there, and then that's what makes a great employee. And so it's a great opportunity for you guys to try, you know, different students and see what you can do. And then they have an opportunity to see what you guys are like. And so,
Yeah.
What would be great is if you were able to come and do something with the students, and then if they were able to come and then see your space, that
Right.
would be a really great connection. One of our film students was really interested in interviewing Sam, and finding out more about him, how he got into his particular business, and like how a student could get, you know, work in that field. So anyone who has, you know, you could simply come and visit for a tour, or, you know, talk to kids if you feel like you have something that you would like to share with them, or something entrepreneurial, or set up a day when they, you know, a group of students come and visit you at your employment, and then vice versa, in a program that matches what you do for a living. So I would say that would be probably the best way to come experience, would be like, you would get the most out of it if you not only observed but also participated. So, and we would set that up with you, so it would be really, really welcome and really exciting. Thank
Cool.
you for
Done.
asking.
All right.
That'd be so great. Please do it. Okay. Yay, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much
Yeah,
for
thank you
coming, for
listening.
staying for 2 meetings, and I
Oh,
don't know
gosh.
if you gave the same presentation, but well, if you did, thank you.
Oh, no, this one was different. This one was just really
It was just for you.
It was, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
okay.
But we didn't want to make, you know, Ann and Sam sit through the exact same thing. So, like, oh gosh. But thank you so much for having us. I'm gonna scoot down. I live in Ludlow, so I'm gonna.
Yes.
Bye-bye. Have a
Oh,
wonderful evening, everybody.
Just knows.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you both for
thank you,
coming.
thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
But yeah, absolutely, reach out, or, I'm sure I can find your email. And
Yeah, we know where to find.
Is it?
Yeah.
Tell me your business. Tell me your business.
Wit and Grit.
Wit and Grit. Me and my wife pick up coffees there and stuff like that sometimes. We like it. We like it. I didn't know.
But I'm a school board hat now.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. Hey, well, anyways, but yeah, great opportunity. We can have some reciprocal
Cool.
That'd be wonderful.
energy back and forth.
Open invitation to everybody.
Yes, please.
Please and thank you. Okay, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right. Budget information meeting. So I hope everyone has in their calendar please open your calendars and make sure that you have in there February 27th for the budget information meeting at 6 o'clock. There is a dinner, community dinner beforehand. Flyers are out at 5 o'clock. If you can, and I realize, evenings can be tricky, but if you can, please attend both. Again, our presence, our faces, and in this tricky budget season, it's important that we are available, that we're accessible, and we're not just, hanging Michael out there to do a fabulous job of explaining things, but we all need to be able to explain things. So in your own communities, make sure that people know about both the 5 and the 6. Oh, Sarah, did you?
On the lake house. Yes.
Hi.
You just unmuted yourself.
Oh.
We were hearing about the lake house.
And with that, she gave me the perfect in to give a big shout out. The dinner is being prepared by the RU French PBL and the Marine Ecology class. It's funded through Stronger Connections.
So cool.
Starts at 5 o'clock in the RUHS cafeteria.
And where's the meeting itself?
In the RUHS auditorium.
Thank you.
Yeah. And while we're on the topic of meetings, just because I didn't list it at the end, also the annual meeting. Monday, the 3rd, 6 o'clock as well, auditorium. Okay? Have a cookie.
I've been staring at them for,
I don't know, they're tasty.
Don't just stare.
Hours.
You're supporting the tech center right there. Thank
Right
you.
there.
Annual meeting, same location.
Correct. And thank you, Anne, for making sure that Kelly Green can attend. So please put those in your calendars and just be there.
6 p.m. for the annual meeting?
Correct.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So next up is kind of, I'm going to a little bit skip around and bring in, we will talk about the full superintendent's report at the end where it is listed on the agenda, but I think it's going to come up here as well. The presidential executive orders there were many, but the ones pertaining to education. And Michael, I just want to acknowledge that your communication to staff, I've found to be thorough and clear and precise, and kind of left no room for what does it mean? You kind of placed where we are, but I did want to make sure it was on the agenda for people who may. I think it's important that we talk about it, and whether we go further than that is up for discussion as well. Either kind of affirming, reaffirming, pro-affirming, I don't know, affirming the message that Michael put out as a board. And tying in something else from the agenda, Module 3, speaking in one voice. I thought that was very, I kind of was glad that it was for this meeting, because I think that ties in here as well. I'm going to stop talking because I do think this is an important discussion to have with more than my voice.
I'll echo the praise for Michael's statement to the staff, especially that I feel like you really, said it was everything that I could have hoped that you would say to them, and I really appreciate that. I understand from that statement and from everything I've read since that like the executive orders these are not law. These are orders for agencies to act on. But I think that my perspective is that it's really important for our community to hear from the board that we affirm our district's following state law about supporting LGBTQ students and immigrant students and keeping these students safe and make sure that they feel safe at school. I think these executive orders, I mean, I know my own kid has been getting bullied about some things at aftercare, about their gender. And I think it's really important for our community to hear that the board supports the schools in maintaining these Vermont state policies and guidance. And yeah, I'm rambling. I did prepare, I drafted a statement because I do think I would love for us to be able to make a statement to our community about this. And if people are open to hearing it, I can read it. We can definitely talk more. And this is very much a draft of what, I looked at what some other school boards and school districts were saying in other places to get ideas about language. It's pretty close to what I've seen elsewhere. But yeah, I'm curious as to what you all think.
I've sort of had the same thought. I've had a couple of community members reach out kind of in a panic about executive orders and who's allowed access to buildings and concern, you know, and it's, I think when people are feeling panicky, they're not thinking rationally. So it's also hard to be like, well, but AOE presented guidance on this. So I think whether it comes from the board or from Michael, I think that message that went to teachers was, I am just going to echo what's already been said. It was timely, it was supportive, it was clear, and it helped me feel more like, okay, this is not the only thing that, this is not the only regulation that we have to follow. Like we have other guidance that supersedes sort of the executive orders, and that, and how are we approaching that as a district? It just was very well said. So I think our community would benefit from a similar message.
You can see the evolution, so because you all are getting anything that goes out to all staff, you saw the communication to the staff, and you see a version of that communication, an echo, if you will, of that communication, which is in the board packet, which is available since Friday to every community member. And the next step of this is, as I get ready to kick off the Wednesday community meetings, the once a month Wednesday community meeting, I've set this up basically in a way in your board packet. It wouldn't be hard for you to see that I could pull that out and turn it into a letter in a pretty straightforward way. And I would imagine that there may be community members that want to come to a Google Meet and talk about this, as well as the budget, as well as the governor's plan. So I think all of those things sort of sitting together, you know, give power to it. You certainly give power to amplify, you know, if that's the message that you want to amplify, then you've got the power to do that. If there's something else that you want to do, that's up to you as well. But this letter is very close to being ready to go out, and part of doing this job for as long as I've done this job, I know not to get too far in front of my board. And since we're new to each other, this was your opportunity to kind of see it and say, hey, tone's good, tone's too much, tone's not enough, whatever you're looking for there. You know? I did run this through, just so you know, the version between this and the I think honestly the faculty one was a little bit more detailed, a little more into the weeds and the specifics. So I did run it past a couple people that I really think that are on our staff who are really they're known as people who really support social justice endeavors, and got the thumbs up from them on that. So up to you. I'm sort of interested in how the rest of this conversation goes, and I'll just be quiet now.
Well, I think one thing I do want to say is that folks who are not new to the board, I think that there was a theme that came up several times in recent or in previous years, feeling like the board needed a more kind of its own identity, independent of the superintendent. You know, whether that had to do with the culture then, or it's a different culture now. But what I think I hear Rachel saying is that a message specifically from the board, even if it's we reaffirm what our superintendent put out, you know, and let us reiterate it. We follow this. But something specifically from the board, I think, has not more weight or less weight, but different weight.
I also think standing together is a very important statement, and also, I mean, I think it could be protective to have more people coming together to make these statements too.
So Rachel did mention that she wrote something. I don't know if people want to have more discussion about this, I'm trying to take the temperature in the room here. Because it seems to me before talking about what a specific statement might be, I'd like to hear from people just about making a statement. Importance of it, you know, appropriateness of it, being the particular kind of board that we are, that kind of.
I always look to Anne for the board
As
governance. But my vote would be, I think that I think there is benefit in two messages. You know, I think, especially if they affirm each other, right? It's like, it's, validity is not the right word. Sorry, it's been a very long day. So my language is failing me, but it provides maybe better scaffolding for support of our community. So that's where I come from, but I also think I cut Ryan off. So.
No, it's okay. One of the things I really appreciate about your letter here, Michael, is it almost retains a sense of neutrality in that it says, here are the laws. There you go. It doesn't really come down on one side of a social justice issue, in my opinion. And I think that in some ways is important so you don't alienate on half of the community, right? And I also think that because it's not incredibly impassioned, it is very, again, just very neutral and it's, here's the laws. I think that's probably a very safe place to be, especially given the recent history where our school district has been the discussion of, you know, national tabloids and social media personalities and everything else. So I think I just want to say that I appreciate the neutrality of this.
Well, I would say, again, given sort of the way that the structure of our board and the way we govern ourselves, one of the things that we do need to do is reach out to our community and educate them. In this particular instance, I would say it's probably, because these are sort of the operational rules that our superintendent has to enforce, because we have a policy that says you need to follow the law. And so it really falls into his category. I don't think there's anything wrong with us saying, we are in support of how well our superintendent is following the laws, whether or not we need to do that. And I would say in line with what Ryan is saying, just, I think we also need to be aware of just coming down so heavily that it becomes, it starts a polarization, because it's the last thing that we want. We want it to stay, you know what, let's all take a deep breath. We have laws, we have courts, we have constitutions. There's a lot going on. Let's all sort of keep the temperature and reactions within reason. And so that's where I would fall on that.
Can I ask, so still learning, sort of our responsibility then for ownership linkage with what's sort of being communicated within?
Just making sure he's communicating with, you know, one, is he following the laws? Yeah, he's aware, he's following the guidance that's getting sent out to him from the state. And then in terms of ownership linkage, just sort of encouraging folks to be aware. And so if we wanted, we could link to his letter, you know, in case, because a lot of times the community information that you get out, that goes primarily to parents. Those are the ones who show up. So maybe making sure that it gets out in the Herald. I know I'm in a group, and so I shared with them, because it came through the VSBA, I said, this is the guidance. I showed them, I sent them the guidance, because there are a number of people working with migrant community in Vermont. And I said, this is the guidance that the state of Vermont is giving to schools. So it was just more just sharing information so that people know. Just as you found, people were asking you, well, what's going to happen in the schools because of what's happening, is to make sure that that information is getting out to the public, and the public is able to know what's going on and what the laws are and what the guidance is.
Right, and I my struggle is, I do think it's important for us to have a voice independent of the superintendent, especially because we can reach, we were elected by more than just the dismissing them, but parents or school community. So we have access in communication to kind of a broader population than Michael may have. And I'm also struggling with wanting to keep things from boiling over, but also acknowledging that things are boiling over for some. So this I'm just expressing kind of a personal struggle I'm having, that I want to keep the peace all the time, but a lot of people are not experiencing peace right now. So that's an inner.
Yeah, I agree in that. I think that there's definitely, we want to give thought to strategy about not, creating more tension than there might be already, but like these things aren't, the two sides are not equivalent in terms of like marginalized folks who do not feel safe.
Right.
And I do understand that the statement from Michael needs to be very clearly about like what the law is and what we're doing here. And I think that we have a unique opportunity as politicians to make a statement about what should happen for our most marginalized students and how they should be kept safe in schools.
This is tough. It's tough on many levels. It's, for me, toughest to compartmentalize my board self and my self and my parent self. And
The pause you just heard is a great example from, I'm pretty sure it was Module 3, of the different perspectives and the different points of view and the conversation. I mean, you're living Module 3 right now of policy governance, and I have a big smile on my face about it, watching you do it in a respectful way, trying to say, hey, how are we going to navigate this complicated situation?
we're also at a very particular moment in terms of the budget, right? Eyes are on us for a variety of reasons. The budget, election, local election. So I think that is also playing into my inner struggle about statements, about public communication.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if, so Rachel, what you wrote, I'm wondering about how you feel it, I don't know if this is a fair question, but differs from what Michael put out. This is hard.
I can try to,
I'm gonna keep saying that. This is hard.
Again, this is just my attempt at a draft, right? So it's not that we have to decide between like this or nothing or, So the way that I wrote this was to basically affirm and repeat what Michael said with some added language that I found from other district and school board statements of saying that we support our immigrant and LGBTQ students, and that we want them to know that they're not alone, and thank them for being part of our school community. I can read it too, so you can, rather than me trying to summarize the difference here, but it's very close and just adds a little bit to to be a little bit more clear about yes, we include you, you are part of this community, I think.
So you gotta read it.
Okay. The Orange Southwest School Board affirms our district's dedication to the health, safety, and well-being of students and staff, and to ensuring that our schools provide safe and welcoming environments for everyone in our school community. All students should feel supported and valued regardless of immigration status, gender identity, or political beliefs, and should be able to learn and participate in schooling without fear of discrimination. The Vermont Agency of Education and I'll back up, I wrote this before I saw this, so I would actually explicitly link to this letter in saying that, so I would make revisions to how I said that. Anyway, the Vermont Agency of Education provides guidance on supporting the safety and well-being of immigrant students and LGBTQIA+ students. The school board wholeheartedly affirms that OSSD must and will follow Vermont state law and guidance to protect and support these students. We commit to protecting the rights of every student, including those from immigrant families and those who identify as LGBTQIA+, and ensuring that our schools remain safe, inclusive, and welcoming for all. For our immigrant and LGBTQIA+ students and families, we want you to know that you are not alone. We are proud to support you and your rights. We affirm practices by our district to actively promote acceptance and understanding. As a community, it is essential we stand together. We encourage families to talk with your children about these topics. Open conversations can help students feel more secure and informed about the world around them. Remind them that it's okay to ask questions and express their feelings. Thank you for being part of our school community. Together, we will continue to support our students, staff, and each other in every way possible. If you have any questions or need assistance, we encourage you to reach out to us. Our doors are always open and we're here to listen.
Thank you for reading that.
Which I think like the add-on here that we can do from our unique position as a board is to really say, like, don't be afraid, like, we are here for you.
I think where I get nervous, where you say to our LGBTQIA plus families and immigrant families, you're not alone. That I feel is veering away from our role as politicians. And without demeaning what comes after that, it's more, this is going to sound demeaning anyway, but it's more emotional than, right? That's how I hear it. I'm not going to say right. That's how I hear it.
Just putting notes in.
Yeah, and the word "we" is a big one. And again, as one voice, but the way that you use "we" as in our community, I think is not dangerous.
Making some assumptions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
possibly including people who don't agree.
Some people are gonna disagree. And I think we need to recognize that some people may disagree. That doesn't mean that we can say to Michael, oh, go ahead, let them harass people, let them be nasty, let them, no. But we can't say, you have to do this. We have to say, you can't do these things. You may behave, and you may not behave in a way that makes somebody uncomfortable, because we have harassment policies, we have bullying policies, we have state law, people have to be able to feel safe, and there is a recourse for them if they are not, and Michael has to enforce that. But we can't say, you have to have these discussions at home, that's where I start getting a little uncomfortable. I may disagree completely with what some other folks might believe, but I can't make them believe what I believe. And so that's where I get a little uncomfortable.
So with encourage you to have conversations.
Yeah, that just is going down a road that's a little too preachy.
I feel the same way.
For me, I'm not comfortable
There's,
with it.
I feel we are best served, at the risk of coming from a place of incredible privilege and, everything else. I do think that the board, in some ways, works best as an impartial, not a body that does not wade into
Non-political.
these large national social justice issues and make statements about them. What I like about this is that it does what I like about what Michael wrote is that it does achieve the goal of ensuring and reminding students that they are safe by pointing to a very real thing. Like, here's our statement. There are laws, we will follow laws. Very neutral thing that does not alienate the right or the conservative elements of our community, which are there, right? Who come to our meetings, who are valued voices. And I think, yeah, that's really it. I think that I've seen this board wade into or get tangled and mired into large-scale national culture issues, and it didn't work well. And I think that what we have here is really good, and a simple statement saying that we reaffirm what Michael has written feels safest. And again, that doesn't feel like a really good place to come from either. Being like, this feels safe, right? I don't like being that guy. I've seen what has happened in the past, and I didn't like seeing it from an outsider's perspective, not on the board. So, I don't know. That's where I'm coming down on this.
It's also American value of tolerance. And that means we have to tolerate some people that we may not particularly enjoy hearing their points of view. But that is, as long as they're not hurting kids and harassing kids and bullying kids.
But how is someone who is making clear that they have transphobic views not harassing trans kids?
Well, it will come down to the enforcement of that harassment and bullying policy, and making sure that staff, and that again is Michael's job, making sure that staff are overhearing things in the hallways, that they're paying attention, that they are around vulnerable students so that they are safe. That's the job of Michael and his staff. We have the laws in place, we have the policies in place, and we need to encourage, not as a board, but in our own lives and our own worlds, encourage the most vulnerable to speak up, and you know, in our own in our own personal lives we can do that. I don't feel comfortable going heavily in that direction as a board. I just think we're opening ourselves up to a polarizing something that is really, we have things that are that are American values. We have rule of law. I know we currently have someone who doesn't happen to believe in rule of law, but on our local level, we can insist on the rule of law, following policy, following the law, following the Constitution.
But I think that one tweak there can be, we're following these things so that our kids feel safe. Every kid feels safe. I think maybe, I'm working out as I'm talking and listening, that there is an extra piece in this moment that is missing when simply saying there's a law against that. There's a law against that to protect the vulnerable. And this is the moment to remind people of that, or educate for the first time people of that, because there's a question of how much executive orders, how much power does that have? I mean, the panic is real. It's real.
Yeah.
I also think, just from my experience being part of a vulnerable community and working with vulnerable communities, sometimes in a moment like this nationally, calling attention to our attempts to maintain safety within our schools is sort of, sometimes when you're part of a vulnerable community, you do not want to be in the spotlight. And that is something that kind of, that I was thinking about as you read it, is it brings additional attention to communities that are vulnerable, that are under some pretty large spotlights already. And I think the thing that I like about Michael's language is it's very neutral and points to laws and regulations and things that are very rational, that in something that feels, in a moment of fear, which is irrational, is grounding. Outside, and it doesn't put a spotlight necessarily on an already vulnerable community. And everyone has different feelings about that, right? About whether they want the spotlight or don't want the spotlight. So I think having more neutral language that really talks about the regulation. I like what Hannah says about sort of adding, like, the implication of this is that we're trying to keep our children and our communities safe. And that's a way to say that without saying these two specific communities, because I think there's other communities that are feeling pressure right now that maybe in these two executive orders are not highlighted, and we're not highlighting in the letter, but I guess I also don't want to invalidate other people's experiences by naming two specific communities of people.
I just think that if we don't name them, then it becomes meaningless, and we start creating false equivalence between having political beliefs versus actually being marginalized, and that's my fear.
Rachel, did I hear you take a breath as if to speak, and then I started talking? And now I'm calling you out. No, I didn't. Okay, sorry. You may have.
My thinking on this is precisely what Emil just said about I believe in the standing in solidarity piece and standing up, but I also am cognizant of the people in those marginalized situations and increased attention who may not want it.
We wanted diversity of opinions. Come on, Rachel. What's
Took a breath. I just want to clarify, are we in agreement that we need to say something? That's a great question.
I don't feel like we do.
And I would side with Ryan. I think Michael's going out, he's reaching out to the community, he's educating the community. I mean, I don't know how much more a statement for us would really add. I mean, but as long as it's still pretty neutral like this, or if it's a statement that says, we are really pleased in how our superintendent is managing all these executive orders and he's following, some sort of support statement about
Right, I could see something
what
like
he's
that.
doing. That would be fine, but I don't feel like it's necessary. But that's me. That's just one
there are some things about this conversation that feel a little bit reminiscent of a few years ago when we were silent as a board. And that was really disruptive, I think, to our community because people were left to kind of guess what our stance was. And so I would be in favor of saying something that we can all agree on. Because in a vacuum, people will make their own assumptions, and it can turn, I think, into a bigger thing than it needs to be for our local community.
Yeah.
I do think there's some value in having a joint letter. If people are feeling like what Michael said is what we want to say as a board, I mean, obviously I think we should say more. But if we basically just want to say we affirm that, then why not just sign? I've seen other districts where the school board and the district administration sign one letter.
That's reasonable.
Yeah, I'd do that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, even if we just co-sign this one, right? That seems.
So I would entertain a motion for a vote there, although before doing that, I would want to check with Michael, seeing as he penned the letter.
I vote we say that we co-authored Michael's letter.
Actually, you know what? It'll just be from us. We're good.
It'll be okay. Look here, I want to break the concept of neutrality right now. This is a plain, no-nonsense spoken letter. It is not a neutral letter. I want to be clear in this letter that I support every student in all of our schools. There is no neutrality there. You come after our kid in our school, I'm going to be there. And I'm going to fight it, and I'm going to do right by the kids. So let's just be clear. I'm on the side of the kid. That's where I am. Every kid, all buildings. And I'll expand that out further. Every kid, every building, all of Vermont, as far as I'm concerned. I know that in this role right now, I represent Orange Southwest, but as a superintendent in the state, I support every kid, all buildings in Vermont. There is no neutrality there. So that's how I would approach that. See how good I was while you were talking and how many times you said neutrality? Anybody notice the upper lip here? You know? There it was. So I'm happy to put more of an emphasis. So, you know, everything that is in this is carefully crafted in a way to highlight. There are places that are bolded and places that aren't bolded, and I want to make it clear. And so what comes out of this for me is the all students line and whatnot needs a little more emphasis, because I do not want people walking away. This was part of the reason why I went to some people to read it, to make sure that it didn't lose that tone for them. And so I want to make sure that that tone's in there. So, and this is exactly what I needed before I sent something out. You are as the representative of the owners, you bring different perspectives, and that's the one perspective that I'm walking away from here, is that this comes maybe just a pinch too neutral, and I need to be clear. We're going to support all kids. We're going to keep all kids safe. We're going to do that every day.
So back to the question,
I would sign a letter with you, sure. I would tweak this somewhat and try to pull it in and get that. So I think that's what you all are saying too. I think that's what you're Rachel saying is, if you're silent, then maybe you're saying to some people who want to hear, hey, the board is going to condone certain behavior or not condone certain behavior. They'll hear what they want to hear in the absence of something from the board. And It's also very easy for me to craft the letter to say very clearly that the board at its meeting endorsed this concept with an emphasis on how important it is to ensure that all students feel safe and included in our schools.
That'd be great.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I can draw a highlight to, you have just spent the better part of an hour talking about this, and if people want to understand where you are with this, it's not hard to watch the recording that'll be posted up. So I can do that however you want to, whatever language you use in the next 10 minutes here, I can work that in. We can all sign it if we want to. Whatever you all want.
Or do we want to just delegate you to sign it once it's a draft ready?
Well, the first thing I want to do is take
Sign
a
the board.
vote on not combined letter, public communication, based almost exactly with a little tweaking from the superintendent and the board. I think it's important we take a vote.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Would it be, first of all, I like Michael's suggestion of the added language was sort of a focus, a stronger focus on sort of the board discussion and how he said it. I'm not going to be as eloquent. Is there a benefit in saying, we the board, having him sign the letter and then having a statement like, we the board fully support, Michael's, I don't know if we sign one single letter or if it makes sense to have a statement that sort of the board is fully in support of these concepts and the board signs under that.
I always want to answer a question first. I'm not gonna.
And I don't care either way, I just am curious what other people's thoughts are.
Well, what I thought I heard Michael say is he's gonna write his letter with a little more emphasis on keeping all students safe, and that he was gonna mention that the board endorsed, maybe that wasn't that the word you used.
It all depends on what you do in the next 10 minutes.
Endorses what we're going to be doing in this district or whatever, something to that effect.
Okay, I'll go second. I think that the combined voice, I'm disagreeing with myself from 15 minutes ago, so sorry, former me. But the combined voice, I think, will do it. God, please don't encourage people to watch this recording, because I am being, whoa. But acknowledging that we did, had a discussion and blah, blah, blah. Whatever you said, I am in favor of, and I think signing it, all of us, I do think it's important to have at least one actual name from the board on there, if it's me on behalf of everyone, or if it's every single one of our names. I think just saying the OSSD board or whatever it is gives us kind of a, the board said, cool. So I think having a personal name on there is important.
So when I dealt with, you all might remember the Albert Brawl.
Oh yeah, basketball game.
The basketball game. Right about this time of year, in fact. One of the most powerful pieces of communication that went out was when I was prepared to sign it myself, and my whole team said, no, we all are going to put our signatures on this because we believe this and this is important. And there's a difference between if they had said, oh yeah, you can sign it on behalf of our team versus it being the team. So that's a piece of the
Yeah,
equation.
I was thinking just that. There's a lot more power in every single signature being on there.
So I will make a motion.
Thank you.
That Michael moves forward with the letter with some of the tweaks that we spoke about tonight. And the board will sign this letter jointly.
When it's ready.
When it's ready.
Thank you for the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by, I saw Rachel's hand first, so seconded by Rachel Fish. Further discussion?
So the timing of that means that it does not have to wait for the next board meeting, right?
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay, just like making sure that's absolutely clear.
Thank you
So
for
we
the
will-
clarification.
So do we need to
Swing by
review
Do we need to review the letter before it's signed, or do we just get word from Kyle, it's come in and read and sign? How's it
The
gonna work?
latter, I think.
The way the motion was, there is no, you can't tweak it separately. So
Right.
you're trusting me to write this and that you're going to sign it.
Okay.
And there's going to be no discussion, and we've done all of the discussion that's going to happen with this,
Right here.
and all of the community can see it right here.
And you can always go back and look at the video.
Okay.
No.
Kyle takes really good notes too. Just
Kyle's really super patient waiting for signatures also.
There's a motion. I'm kidding.
Okay.
because I think if we were gonna review stuff, like we'd have to come back in
Right.
for a meeting, right?
Right.
So I'm trying to like
Yeah.
get it so we don't have to do that.
Yes.
That's the
Right.
way I said my motion.
For it.
Okay, all those in favor, audibly, visibly?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Sarah. All opposed? Abstentions? Oh, that was her taking it down. Passes unanimously. I just want to say I appreciate everyone's presence and contribution to a conversation that is really hard. Rachel, thank you for kind of giving us the meat to chew on. I appreciate all of you. Okay. All right, we're finally past section 2, people. Update on negotiation process. There was the initial meeting for both subcommittees about ground rules and schedule, and now each committee has met once with leadership from either licensed staff or support staff. So I'll speak to the professional or licensed staff side that we exchanged language. And in our next meeting, we'll be exchanging number proposals, money proposals.
That's what's happening with us too, on the support staff side.
Well, we're in sync. Excellent.
Good job.
Thank you for those serving on those committees. Okay. Module 3, I found very interesting. I think we covered a lot of it in action tonight.
Is that extra credit?
Yes, you get a cookie with extra sprinkles.
I'm gonna send the recording of this to the VPA and
Yes.
the VSBA so that they can give you that extra credit email.
Thank
Say, watch it from,
It's a sticker. But I would propose
it's a
that.
cookie, it's a cookie.
It's a cookie, that's it, that's all you get. I would propose that we lived this module, but if anyone has anything further to say about that training. Mila Timer said it took me 36 minutes. It's not huge. Getting me to sit down and do it was the hardest part, so keep going. First read, executive limitation 2.7. Michael, do you want to say anything about it? First read again, so, we'll see it a second time. Oh, it's in here, right?
It is in there.
I know it was sent separately electronically, but,
Actually, I enjoyed, this is gonna be the first time I'm gonna say I enjoyed writing this one. Right? Most of these, I cannot honestly say that I have enjoyed writing. This one must be right kind of up the alley of the kinds of things that I like to do and I like to think about, and, right? So this is gonna tie into, this came at exactly the right time. It ties into, I mean, been with you for 7 months. We haven't had an executive session. You have an executive session tonight so that I can make sure that I'm in sync with you when negotiating non-union contracts. So you get to see my thinking and whatnot, and you see that I submit to you that I report partial compliance here, and down in the notes, some of the early market analysis that I've done shows some potential discrepancies. And I'm going into executive session with you tonight so that I understand how to negotiate those contracts moving forward. So that next year, I can say we're fully in compliance.
anyone, comments? So there's no vote to be had. That was a first read. Thank you, Michael. So no policy decisions to be made tonight. The self-evaluation, it's about the chair. And I'm ever so responsibly going to step away while you talk about this. Welcome my other child. That sounded like a very productive discussion. Anyone have anything to say?
You did a great job.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, great, okay. It's not a very interesting one. Thank you. Let's see. Wow, so now we're at consent agenda. Look at us powering through. Does anyone have any edits from the minutes?
Can't see any, but I'm not a detailed note reader. These are very extensive.
Oh, they're good. Yeah, and it was Katya who was the one who
Yeah,
would
she
find.
is very detail oriented. I just kind of skimmed them. They seemed all right to me.
I read them in detail and did not see anything and just thought it is really wonderful that I don't have to do this because it would not contain this level of detail. So thank you.
Yeah, it really is
Maintaining
extraordinary.
excellent records for the board, Kyle.
Yeah. All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we move the consent agenda, accept the consent agenda.
Great, moved by Ann. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sarah. Seconded by Sarah. All those in favor, visibly audibly?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Opposed? Abstentions? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Michael, you want to talk about more from your report?
I don't think so. I think we went into depth in all the pieces that I would go in depth in, and happy to answer questions.
Anything about the financials, just if anyone has questions on them, we didn't put it as a separate item here, but they've been in the packet. If anyone has any questions.
We're on track. We're running a little bit in the black, which is always good. Not so much in the black as where we finished last year, so I think that's also good. Showing that we're spending what we said we'd spend, and we appear to be on track with both the RTCC budget and the OSSD budget.
Questions on the financials or, other items from Michael's report? Good. Your first community meeting on Google Meet is next Wednesday.
It's going to be the third
Correct.
Wednesday of every month from
Yeah,
now on.
a week from today.
Everybody's welcome.
And I'll,
Is
reiterate,
that
it's a
gonna
Google
go out
Meet.
on,
so-
how are you gonna get that out to the community?
I'm going to put that out on Parent Square to the community, put it up on the website, and
How about to the wider community beyond parents? Are
uh,
you gonna do a front porch forum or a Herald?
Do you
So-
have a front porch forum?
I do not have a front porch forum.
That's a good one. You should do that.
I am happy to have
Yeah.
anybody
Is there
distribute it
a
on
group?
front porch forum
There's a
should they
board
want.
one. I can.
And I will also, I've been having conversations with the Herald, and so I think we can probably share with the Herald. I don't control what they publish, but, but
If you write up something, even a little tidbit, they usually will oblige unless there's a real.
And I think, just keep in mind that anybody can sign up for Parent Square, so if you're interested in what's happening in the school stuff, you're certainly welcome to, as a community member, sign up for Parent Square, I believe.
So if the board would like me to post in Front Porch Forum, it is on behalf of the board, so if I could have a vote on that, to authorize me to do that on your behalf.
I will make a motion that Hannah post Michael's community meeting on Front Porch Forum.
And Hannah, before you take a vote on that, I see Heather has a hand up.
Thank you,
Maybe
Heather.
She's got one.
Good evening. If you prefer it to be a district message, I have a front porch forum. And I'm happy to do it like as a district message. Your choice.
For that. Why? Because it's Michael communicating to the community. It's not the board communicating to.
Right. I would post it as Michael, but I have one set up. And I've posted things like bus driver openings, etc.
Yeah, seems reasonable.
Before that idea, I was going to say that I could also include the budget information meeting and the annual meeting, so that can be a separate one.
Or do it all? We have a motion. We have to do something with the motion.
Oh, we have to do
I
something
could
with the
rescind
motion.
my
You
motion.
can rescind it.
I'm gonna rescind my motion, and Rachel, you can do a motion. If you want to do a motion,
I move
happy
that
with
we
her.
delegate to Hannah to communicate via whatever forum, front porch forum, or whatever you like, to our community about upcoming meetings, highlighting that Michael will be, you know which ones.
Do I have a second on the motion on the table?
I'll second.
And Neil seconds it. Further discussion?
I'm fine with it if it needs to come that way, that's fine.
Okay, all those in favor, audibly, visibly, please? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
I would also say, can I just say one more thing?
Sure.
Heather, I think you should still put it out. I don't think it hurts to have it in two places. Like for Heather to put it out on the Front Porch Forum, that is the districts, and for us to say, and for Hannah to say on behalf of the board, these are upcoming things that we want to highlight for you.
That's great. Yes, absolutely. Many voices. And we should do the same with the budget, like many voices.
Yep, so I will, in your motion that passed, it is Michael's, it is the budget, and annual. Do we really want people to come to the annual? It's just so
There's some,
Wow.
yeah.
It's a public meeting, yes.
Okay,
All
and
right.
a reminder, just a general reminder of when our meetings are.
And the dinner.
And what?
And the
And the
dinner.
dinner.
And the dinner.
Start with the dinner.
My goodness, this is yes, open with food. And then regular meetings. Okay, got it.
These flyers fit perfectly on bulletin boards. Just put that
Oh, it's
yeah.
going up at the restaurant, yeah.
We'll put that
definitely.
on the Brookfield
Definitely.
Town Hall.
Okay, new hire and resignation updates. Does anyone have any questions there?
The last page.
Thank you.
I got a little typo. Leanne's got an extra E in there. Santiago.
Thank you, Eagle Eye Hooper. Appreciate it.
The resignees, are any of them retirements, or are they all people who are moving on or going elsewhere, or otherwise
Good.
retired?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
She's been around for a long time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I hope so. She was one of my teachers.
Is there, she was even one of my teachers.
I didn't even
way
recognize it.
back before mine.
As Tina.
So is there recognition, is there some kind of recognition for people who've, spent a career here and have come to the end of their career? This is probably not the time to discuss it, but
So then I'll just give you the answer that yes, I believe there will be.
thank you.
And, hey, I asked if there were questions, so it's a totally appropriate time. School newsletters, principal reports. Great. Action item recap. Oh, we have meetings,
Did you move
meetings,
to
and more
approve the
meetings.
consent agenda?
Say it again, sorry?
We did.
We already did.
Thanks.
Can I ask just a general question about
Resignations of the new-
Carl's public comment before?
Sure.
On the statutory change to how the budget is being written on the ballot, where did the state land on that? I thought it went one way and then it came back the other.
So they changed it back through COVID, that you could do whatever you wanted. And then last year, they gave you the language that is prescribed, that is back to the language that was pre-COVID.
And that's the 20.
It's this
Per
amount,
student.
which is
Per pupil.
per pupil, which is a increase or decrease of this percentage over the previous year.
Have those all gone
It's
to the
word-
printer already?
Sam, I
Yeah,
think that
it has to be
I think
that
in
way.
my report, I actually put the language there because I wanted to explain why when I think it's Kyle, right?
Yeah.
When Kyle is talking about the overview,
Yeah, the 22.45. Okay, yeah, I
it's
just,
right, that's the statutory, the stuff that's in italics in the middle of that first page of my report is the statutory language.
all right. Well, we should probably think about talking to Brookfield people about that and what that actually means.
And the paragraph that's right up above that is why that happens. It's the loss of people coming off of Medicaid
Yeah.
and no longer qualifying for free and reduced lunch.
Yep.
So therefore not having the poverty rate, in which caused us to lose 184 students
Yep.
weighted, the weights
Yep.
equivalent to 184 students. When you actually look at our ADM, we increased by 1 student.
Yeah.
I wonder what the education spending is going up by X% would have been without that.
I certainly can calculate that.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, actually, we can calculate that because
They have
I can
Randolph
calculate. I can
17%.
calculate that if I have an annual report in front of me very easily. because they just add 184 to our equalized pupil
Yeah.
and divide the money that we're asking for. I don't have
Might
the
be
numbers in
useful
front of
for
me.
conversations, but wouldn't sweat it too much.
Yeah.
I think correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the ways we get higher weighted pupils is it's Medicaid, but it's also the free reduced lunch thing.
Yes.
And because there are universal school lunches, are we getting fewer people who are filling out that information?
Yep.
And so we're identifying fewer people also.
Yeah. So what the state tells us at this point, because, we went through that time back when we were arguing about why did we lose 184 kids when we knew we were physically gaining children or a child. And so in that conversation with the state, specifically what they said is, Michael, the qualification for Medicaid is, they're pretty confident that if you qualify for Medicaid, you're probably enrolled in it, and you don't need to fill out the form because you automatically.
Because you're captured in that.
That's right. And so if you're, very few people who qualify for Medicaid don't do what they need to do to qualify for Medicaid.
Yeah.
Now, I do have a former board member who works with, I don't know exactly what he does, but it's the Medicaid, it's the back end of the Medicaid. And so when I talked with him specifically about this, he wasn't surprised that we dropped by between 15 and 20%. And he said, Michael, the good news is when people need that medical coverage, the next time they need to go to the doctor and they realize that they don't have Medicaid, it'll
self-correct.
It will self-correct. And so he says that the trend that they're seeing, and he works at the macro level of this, is about a 7% increase. So we're going to drop the 20% next year. He would suggest to me that we're probably going to see an increase of 5 to 7% in our count, in our equalized count for that. So that's a long-winded way of saying, if we'd made everybody fill out free and reduced lunch applications,
We wouldn't capture
would we have captured that or not?
Probably not.
Who knows?
I was just gonna say, in other districts that I've been a parent of a school-age child in, they told us that like everybody had to fill them out. And when we moved here, I filled it out and I got this whole thing. It was like, you do not qualify. I was like, oh, I've never gotten one of these before, because I felt really bad for filling it out as if they thought that I was applying. But I just wonder if we think there's anyone that might be missed, that's one way to go, is just do it with the initial, like the emergency contact information and all of that the kids
It does have to
bring
in that
in.
packet.
It's in that packet.
But it doesn't say
It's
that
strongly
was like-
encouraged.
Okay.
The packet.
Whatever it was very clear that we had to fill it out where I've been before.
What was the consequence if you didn't?
I don't know.
Want me to tell you, Rachel?
You're such a conformist, Rachel.
I know.
They wouldn't have sent you a letter, and they wouldn't have done anything with it, and it would have been nothing.
Nothing
Sorry.
rule follower though.
Sorry, don't tell the people back from where you're from.
You're being a good teenager.
Now, this discussion right here is a very good reason to not only talk to your constituents, but please encourage them to come to the budget meeting. Reaching people all at once with one message is really helpful to someone who doesn't necessarily feel confident sounding as with it as Michael just did in explaining it. I'm happy to, I am having those conversations, but I'm not as good at it. So the more people that we can get hearing a succinct explanation, the better.
And you see, as I put together the presentation for it, that's one of the big things. The other big thing is that we are providing less services than we did this year. And here are the big things that we cut out of the budget, which is 1.1 million. And saying very clearly that I can't even get you another 1% without it impacting staffing, without it being staff positions. There's not, and you'll remember that 250,000 was 1%. Right? So there's a little bit that maybe wasn't staffing, but I don't think it'd be things that you're not gonna look at me and say, hey, I'm really glad you're cutting that.
And FYI, you can post on personal stuff too, just about the meeting, when it is, where it is, that's okay to do.
Giving up on social
your own.
media.
I wish I could. Okay, I will put the Front Porch Forum, so I'm looking at action items. Michael, you're gonna work on that letter. We're gonna get the heads up and go in and sign. Check your calendars again, make sure you have February 27th at 6, but come for dinner at 5, Monday, March 3rd, 6 o'clock, both in the auditorium. And move on to your next module. Sounds like, I don't know. We do have an executive session, so I will entertain a motion to enter executive session pursuant to Title I, Section 313, contract negotiations. Sarah?
So moved.
Ah, I thought it was gonna be a question. That's very exciting. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Great, seconded by Emile. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great, we shall move to executive session. Does Sarah
In the
have-
conference room, and Sarah, you have the link. I sent it to you just a little bit
Beautiful,
ago.
she has a link.
All right, let's start talking.
So we're recording and you're coming out of
Yeah.
executive session at?
Yep. Right, are we in the right one?
9:21.
Yes. Yeah, we're in the right lane?
I never stopped recording out here, so it was just like, if you watch the video of this, there is however long of a pause that we were just in executive session, worth of a pause on the tape.
Great, so with no action to be taken out of executive session, I will entertain a motion to adjourn at 9:21. So moved. Thank you, meeting adjourned.